get wrong?
This idea... so I run a company that trains veterans to go into cyber employment.
Yeah.
And 4 companies away from that, there's a company that's gone bust.
Yeah, it's not many companies. It's quite a big company. 4 people being arrested. Big story.
It's a big story, but it's got nothing to do with me.
But you never...
Well, of course not.
Not
Why would I have
interested
anything
in
to
who
do with
provided your
financial
£85,000 salary?
Yes,
For a
and it was
4-hour
provided through business in that company that company generated. That
How
had
does
nothing to
training
do with us,
veterans
yeah.
make enough money to earn you 85
Because if you train them in cyber security, and they have specialist skills, they go into FTSE 100 companies and they earn quite a lot of money in cyber security. I sound like a right bastard, don't I, doing this whole sort of veterans employment thing?
No, it's not the veterans bit. It's the £85,000
Yeah,
for a 4-hour job.
I know. I know what you're thinking, because you're
I'm thinking, why don't you do it for free?
I know, because you get 20 grand for 2 hours tonight, don't you?
Yeah, but the people who've lost money out of this company are very cross with you. It's about your behaviour and the fact that you didn't know and didn't ask as a non-executive director, where does the money come from for this
I did
company?
ask where it came from, and it came from the business that's generated by the business that we do.
They were providing the money that kept your company going.
No, they
You
didn't.
were a non-exec.
No, they didn't. That's why the BBC are being sued for libel, because no money went from that company into Crucial Academy.
But it did, though.
OK, well, you can keep saying that, but it really didn't.
No, I'm just saying the change...
This is one for Judge Rindo, I think.
Yeah. I am merely trying to establish the facts. You say you're going to sue the BBC for reporting a story that everybody else has run, and you say that's not how the money got there.
I am absolutely sure that not a single penny has come from LCF and gone into Crucial Academy. If it has, I would leave.
It hasn't gone directly in. It's gone in through a series of other companies.
No, directly or indirectly. If it had, I would leave. Any more?
All right, well, we'll see what happens.
This is like all of my Christmas dinners with my family.
Remember Anne Widdecombe?
I'm sorry, David, it's a big story. 4 people were arrested, and I know you think that your political enemies have smeared you with this story, but it's there.
No, I don't.
It's in the news.
No, I don't think that. I don't think they have smeared me with this story.
But you have accused the Deputy Chief Whip of trying to dig up dirt.
The Deputy Chief Whip has decided to go and ask friends of mine that I served with in the military whether or not things in my book were correct, and obviously I found out, wasn't overly pleased. That book was signed off by the parents of individuals who were killed in that war and who fought with me and my soldiers, but obviously not good enough for the Deputy Chief Whip. And when I confronted him about it, he claimed that was his job, to kick the tyres. And when I spoke to my friend, who he had actually spoken to, he hadn't done anything like that at all. He'd tried to get some dirt and blackmail me to vote for the Prime Minister's deal in January.
That's why they did it, to try and force your vote?
Yeah.
Right.
Nice place, politics.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, why did I sign up?
Why did you?
Yeah.
Like Anne Widdecombe. Remember her?
Ian's team, a Swindon-based comedian who has been very open about suffering from a debilitating disorder, namely that he lives in Swindon. Please welcome John Richardson. And on Paul's team is one of the few politicians who knows what the future holds for him. A regular slot bantering with Jeff Stelling in Dictionary Corner. Please welcome Lembit Opik. Ian and John, take a look at this.
Queues.
Yeah, people wanting to vote.
Unmanageable turnout of 65%.
They think this is South Africa. Get out of it! Now, that's the Lib Dem votes being chucked in the river. Off you go.
My votes, my votes.
That's someone explaining they haven't a clue. Goodbye to you. Go and watch a film, one of your husbands. Hello, Gordon. Piss off. Well, the people have spoken, as Joe said, and they've said, I'm not sure.
We don't know any of you.
Oh, what about you? I don't know. No, it's very exciting. We've got a new Prime Minister, Gordon Brown. You've never voted for him before, and you didn't vote for him this time. So, democracy working pretty damn well, I think.
Does this mean this is going to carry on?
What, this show? God.
I thought at least it would be finished this morning, but it's not, is it? It's going to be months of...
Months of it?
In some cases, it has.
It's good that you're not dwelling on it, though.
I'm completely over it.
After 19 years, is it? Presumably it's...
13 years and 4 days, roughly. I mean, I'm not counting, but...
Somebody was.
If I was Brown, and today I would just resign and then run naked through the streets of London going, you're the bigot, you're the bigot. Can't touch me now, bigots. But they're all still... They're trying to make friends, aren't they? They're trying to do a, hey... They're like passing notes on the news this morning going, tell Nick I think he's fit, Gordon.
It is indeed the overwhelmingly indecisive outcome of the election. In fact, we only know one result for sure. Don't we, Lembit?
Can we get on with this? I've actually got an appointment at the job centre in about half an hour.
They phoned earlier, they cancelled.
What happened to Esther Ranson?
She lost.
She lost her
Her
deposit?
deposit. She lost her deposit, she did.
Good.
Yes, indeed, yeah. Well, someone has to say it, that's life. I know, no cigar for that one, sorry.
Right, now, everyone was hoping Ed Balls would provide a Portillo moment. Michael Portillo said this week, my name is now synonymous with eating a bucket load of in public.
We will do these game shows.
Haven't been on that one yet.
No. The offer will be coming, don't worry. Or maybe not. I mean,
I do hope so.
yeah, so do I.
That was the most depressing use of the word yet I've ever heard in my entire life.
Did you stay up for Lembit? It was. It's the most important thing that happened in the election.
Because?
It's quite funny.
I was expecting a bit more than that, wasn't you?
Ladies and gentlemen, the great thing about losing my seat is I can actually take a fee for this now instead of getting this kind of abuse for nothing.
Do you want to do a rabble-rousing speech on behalf of our coalition?
I think what we offer is not them, basically. People are sick of you coming on here, making fun of the contestants, you know? Just because I'm having a bit of a hard time at the moment, lend us the price of a cup of tea, I'll give it back to you next year. I don't mean nothing, Governor. I've got me harmonica and can play that for you if you want. And I have. No, I have.
Find some change.
I have.
Are we witnessing a mental breakdown?
You do the singing and I'll do the playing.
Before we go, there's just time for the caption competition. Ian and Kevin have this. Big dog and small dog. Let me finish. Let me finish, please.
You're on a roll, I'd leave it there.
Have lovely evening marred as food fails to show.
I prefer big dog and small dog.
Polo machine, get that.
Big panda and big panda.
Apparently the Lib Dems are nearly extinct. Oh, it's too late for that.
And here's a bonus one for you all.
Oh.
The Empire Strikes Bake. We're just bodyguards, don't you think? To protect her from being stolen by Channel 4. They've got Imperial stormtroopers surrounding Mary at all moments. Paul Hollywood, little droid. Mary.
You're having one of your turns again, Ian.
Yeah.
You wanted me to point it out the next time it happened, do you remember?
Thanks, sorry.
He gets a nosebleed when he starts dealing with popular culture.
Miller's resignation attracted the usual bunch of renter quotes. What we've seen is a Prime Minister who clearly is totally disconnected with how the voters in Britain feel about MPs' expenses. That was Nigel Farage. The same Nigel Farage who in 2009 revealed that as an MEP he'd claimed in expenses £2 million of taxpayers' money.
And who was it? Who was it that brought up the issue of £2 million and me and taxpayers' money? Dennis McShane.
Yeah, he's in jail, but you're not.
Yes, I had noticed that.
Good.
Yes, well, as a tax-funded MEP, Nigel Farage is an equal opportunities employer. Some of our money has gone to his wife and some to his mistress. Or have I got that wrong?
That is allegedly, don't you? I think that is allegedly.
We can set the record straight right now.
Yeah, I think it is. I think you ought to say allegedly, quite honestly.
Can I say, as a member of the press, I think, you know, actors really are in need of a royal charter. I mean, that sort of allegation is pretty distressing. What, is it true?
No, afraid not.
Not true at all?
Not true at all.
Any of the good bits?
There are good bits.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Right.
Well, let's have a look, shall we, at some of those revelations. Here is Nikki Sinclair, a former UKIP MEP, now representing the We Demand a Referendum party in the European Parliament. Take a close look at the reaction of the translator in the bottom left corner of the screen.
Does Mr Farage think it's a fair use of taxpayers' money, namely his secretarial allowance, not only to employ his wife Kirsten, but his former mistress Annabel Fuller? Is this a responsible use of taxpayers' money, Mr Farage?
I would just say this to you, Chairman. This is somebody who hid under the cloak of parliamentary privilege to make those comments, and when asked to repeat them, publicly refused to do so.
Quite funny, though.
David Cameron was very rude about your people, wasn't he, Nigel?
Oh, he always is.
Yes, he said...
He can't help himself.
He can't help himself. He said
No,
they were all
fruitcakes
fruitcakes and loonies.
And loonies, and
Yes.
worse. He said worse than that.
He did, right.
Extremists.
Extremists?
Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time... I think it's time for a game of fruitcake or loony. OK, everyone, fingers on your buzzers. I'll show you some UKIP party members. You have to buzz in and tell me whether they're a fruitcake or a loony. Here's the first one.
I don't know who he is.
Ian.
I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
Fruitcake.
I'm afraid that's the wrong answer. He's a loony. He's a would-be UKIP councillor and loony John Sullivan, who wrote, "Regular physical exercise releases boys' tensions and thus avoided homosexuality." Which is quite right, Mr Sullivan, and that's why you'll never see a gay man down the gym. Fingers on buzzers, here's your next one. Nigel Farage, UKIP party.
This is a bit tricky, this one, because he's the treasurer and one of our biggest donors. And I wouldn't really like to call Stuart Wheeler either. I'll have to go for fruitcake.
Is the correct answer. You got it right. Yes. This is UKIP party treasurer Stuart Wheeler and Fruitcake, who said that women had no place in the boardroom and couldn't compete with men at sports, even when they're not physically disadvantaged. He said, chess, bridge, poker, women come absolutely nowhere. I think that just has to be borne in mind. Final go, fruitcake or loony?
I don't know the chat.
No? Anyone?
I'm going to go for loony.
It's the wrong answer. It's actually a trick question. He's not a fruitcake nor a loony. He's a closet racist. At a public meeting about travellers, he said, "The Romanians, they'll stick a knife in you as soon as look at you." His name is Rob Fraser.
Well, thanks for telling me.
Well, there you go. UKIP supporter.
Nice chap, buys his round. Look at the top pledge on the top. We will invade Iraq against the wishes of the people of Britain.
Yeah, but it was Miliband who stopped the invasion into Syria. That's something for him, isn't it?
I haven't heard you say much about that.
No, because I'm more interested in the previous one, which
Well,
you
they
were
were wrong.
involved in.
And we made it clear that so. We made a mistake, there's no doubt about that. But give Miliband the credit for stopping us doing the same thing with Syria.
OK,
because Cameron was about to get to do it with the Americans.
Yeah, no, I have no problem with that. No, Obama
You just
took
don't work
the hint.
about it or talk about it. Anyway, that's the difference between us.
Yeah.
Should we start again?
But you say
I don't think so.
that the manifesto will only just come out, so the candidate can't be expected to know what's in it. Is the manifesto meant to be a massive surprise to Labour candidates?
No, but when you get... Well, in our party, you have to get it through the National Executive and we have a policy making for the manifesto. You don't know necessarily what's coming through. I think some great things have come through, particularly when we're dealing with the Leveson report and what are we going to do about making the press more accountable.
Yes,
That's quite important.
You're going to legislate, aren't you?
What we said about that, we will carry out what Leveson said. We wait to see the press...
Leveson said nothing about a royal charter. He didn't mention it.
I would have thought you as a journalist might find that's an important point.
No, as a
Oh, you
journalist,
don't?
it's an unimportant point.
Oh, blimey, you blimey. In private eye, you're sued every day, for God's sake, for what you say about people.
No, we're not. And
This is
certainly
Johnny.
not about you. I know you've got problems with the press and your private life, John.
I think the last time you raised it, you got the same move. Why don't you be more specific and say it? Usually straightforward in private eye. What's your complaint?
OK, you're very, very unhappy about the press's intrusion into your private life, because they
No,
revealed you were
never
having an affair
complained
with
about
Tracy
it at
Temple.
all.
And it was very embarrassing for you.
No, it wasn't.
God, it wasn't embarrassing.
No, I made a mistake. I owned up to it publicly, and I was waiting for this one
You
to come
didn't own
from
up
you.
to it publicly. You were revealed
I've
as
got an
doing
idea.
it.
Hey,
I've got an idea.
I did it at
Why
the
don't you
Labour
two find a
conference.
room?
Didn't you watch
You two
that?
find a room, and whoever comes out alive is the winner.
I don't think there's any doubt about that.
It's a death stare. He gave me a death stare. It depends who's ordering the room service, I suppose, doesn't it, John?
This is like a terrible family Christmas.
He's kind of the main act. What did you make of his speech?
Well, I mean, again, he's quite competent. He doesn't mess up the autocue. He got some applause. He did some stuff in the middle. He quoted Kipling, the poet, not the cake maker.
Don't patronise me! To be fair, I always thought it was pronounced kapling.
It's National Poetry Day today, isn't it?
Is it?
I think it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
it is.
Well, not tomorrow, obviously, when we're showing, so that ruins that.
This isn't live!
It's barely breathing.
How did you feel about him having a go at your friend Jeremy Corbyn, Diane?
Well, it's certainly not the kinder, gentler politics.
He did say in his speech of Jeremy Corbyn, he said, "My friends, we cannot let that man inflict his security-threatening, terrorist-sympathising, Britain-hating ideology on the country we love." This was in reference to an interview Corbyn gave in 2011 where he said it was a tragedy bin Laden had been assassinated rather than tried in an international court. BBC News didn't mention that nuance in their coverage of Cameron's speech because they've still got a licence fee to defend.
When he said Margaret Thatcher did great hurt to the British people, although not as much as all those bombs, eh, Jerry? All right, Jerry, any time! Yeah. Straight between you, gizzard!
I thought we politically moved on from issuing threats to former members of the IRA.
Well, the BBC also interviewed Maggie's biggest fan and disciple, Tony Blair. Did you see his tribute? He said, very few leaders get to change the landscape of not just their own country, but of the world. I mean, well, he certainly changed the landscape of Baghdad. I'm sorry, Tony, I'm sorry about that, because he had a heart operation, you know, once he had ablation.
Well, he had one put in.
Did he have one put in? He did. And now, Lord Howe of Aberafon was asked... I'm not going to say that again.
Yeah, go on.
I'm not. Aberafon...
It sounds like you're drowning in a bath.
was asked by Sky for his thoughts on his time in Thatcher's cabinet. And he said it was a long time ago. Well, yes, that's the idea when someone dies, Geoffrey. A bit of reminiscing about old stuff. Come on, shape up!
I think you're in safer ground attacking Geoffrey Howe than you were with Jerry Adams.
Did you hear about Julian Stiles? According to the Mirror, Julian, 58, was made redundant from his factory job in 1984. I've been waiting for that witch to die for 30 years, he said. Tonight is party time. I'm drinking one drink for every year I've been out of work. 30 years? Without a job? Pull your finger out, Julian, you lazy bastard! I'll kill you, you bastard!
Let's abandon this show. Brian says, who wants a fight? Line up in alphabetical order. Adams, right. You're first.
Yeah, it's the news that Donald Trump is now a convicted felon.
Yeah, I just said that.
You didn't say how the Daily Star said it. They've got away with words. Orange man baby is guilty on all counts.
Did anyone see that thing when he said, I've got 34 charges? 34. No president has had that many. To be clear, it's not a good thing, is it, being charged?
Do you think he's going to jail, Jack?
He possibly could. I know that if he does, he will be permitted a security brief. He'll have what's known as a ring of steel, which he'll need in prison, I imagine. You know, in all the films, when the new person comes into the prison, you get all the other prisoners at their bars going, new meat, fresh meat. I just can't, they all come together,
Isn't there a thing they do every year with the president on Thanksgiving Day? He has to sort of like pardon a turkey. Yeah. Wouldn't that be funny if he had to do that from his prison cell? You're free!
34 counts of fraud. He could get 4 years in prison for each count. How long could he get, Carol?
136.
Correct. Right. Very good. She's still got it.
This is the news that a number of female mayors has, for the first time, overtaken the number of mayors called Andy. So, what did nobody see coming?
Well, everybody saw a Tory rout coming, and it was indeed a Tory rout. They lost 500 councillors. They lost the West Midlands mayoralty. They lost the Blackpool South by-election. And they lost their passion for life, Bill.
And at the end of the evening, the Lib Dems had won more councillors than the Tories. Now, that's bad.
And they had a sort of defection as well, didn't they? Yeah.
They did.
Natalie Elphicke.
Yes, let's have a look. Yeah, there she is.
At the last minute, just before Prime Minister question time, she defected. She crossed the floor, which is amusing because she's the MP for Dover and she's used to people crossing.
And also, she was about as welcome as a surprise visit from Matt Hancock.
Well, you sound like you're speaking from experience, sir.
A lady never kisses and tells.
No.
It's time now for the Missing Words round, which this week features as its guest publication, Ratitude. The magazine of the North of England Rat Society. For northerners who don't find pigeons dirty enough. And we start with, Putin is what, says author?
Great bloke and I want to live.
Yeah.
Is it gay?
The answer is latently gay, says author. A new biography of Vladimir Putin speculates that he might be latently gay. The biographer is not the first to make this claim. The idea that President Putin is latently has been put forward by a number of recently deceased psychologists. Next, chimps take what?
Is it the fucking piss?
The answer is chimps take their owners to court.
No, they don't.
This is the story of a court case in New York in which 4 chimpanzees are seeking to be recognised as humans. The complexities of the chimpanzees' case have left legal experts scratching their heads, rubbing their asses on ropes and eating things from behind each other's ears. Next, from a rat PR point of view, what was very negative?
The bubonic plague.
No, it's the name Red-Eyed Devil. Next, Chinese girl had what in her ear?
British Prime Minister talking patronisingly. Got a flower in her head.
It was a fully grown dandelion. A doctor tried to remove it by blowing, but all that happened was he found out it was 3 o'clock. Next, what was high at Thirsk Rat Show?
Sexual tension.
The body count. It was an absolute bloodbath.
Yeah. The safety officer. Looks all right to me. Just duck the rats on it. Good stuff.
The overall standard of ears was... Next, clown epidemic what?
Relatively easy to spot.
Clown epidemic in Norfolk, warned police. Police in Norfolk have warned of an epidemic of people dressed as clowns. Clowns are actually fairly easy to capture because they tend to have extremely unreliable getaway cars. Finally, what can add an element of aggression into the relationship which can backfire?
Drunken fighting amongst priests.
You bastard! You can't have a wedding.
It's shouting at a rat. The last time I had a rat backfire was when I stuck a firework up it. I'm just joking, obviously. It was a kitten.
I've never watched an election a U.S. election unfold overnight from London, from watching the BBC overnight. And that's the way, if you want to watch America go down the dumper, watch it through the befuddled nocturnal fog of a man named Andrew Neil. Watching a man, he's just barely on top of everything. And he just sits there, and you had other people beside him. He looks like he's squeezed in like this. And then when they're not there, he still looks like he's squeezed in. Like his body's trying to eject itself. And he comes out, and he's trying to explain the Electoral College, and he doesn't quite, nobody quite gets it, because it's impossible to explain, and it just, somebody's got to get it 270. And now you're watching his scoreboard at a bowling alley, and then finally they give up, and they just bring out this guy who just dances on a map. He just... He dances on a map, and he's trying to show all the states with his feet. He's going like, oh, there's Wisconsin, and there's Ohio, and oh, there's a red state turning blue. Oh, I mean, Christ, Trump is becoming president, and the guy's playing Twister. And then finally, you know, there's just at the top of Andrew Neil's head, spray-on thatch thing, and comes back up at 6:30 and says, Trump's president, and great. Trump's president, I'm watching an acorn talk to me.
The longest TV review I've ever heard. The basic problem is he's confusing the role of President of America with 1970s light entertainment comedian at the BBC. And the fact that everyone's tolerated him up to this moment, suddenly they've said, well, look, Donald Trump, he's awful. How could we have told? I mean, he's been campaigning for months and months, and we've never had any indication that he might be thoroughly ghastly in any number of ways. I mean, how were we to know? This is unfair.
At what point was it not ludicrous that the presenter of The Apprentice in America could become the Commander-in-Chief? It's like saying the presenter of Have I Got News for You could become Foreign Secretary.
I'm sure that loyalty will be rewarded.
It's anonymous hackers. Are they anonymous? I don't know where they're from.
I know, we do know where they're from.
Are they from? Where are they from?
They are from North Korea, it turns out.
Has that been proven?
Not totally proven. But they're not going to sue me, so I think it probably is North Korea. There's something in the code when it was unhacked indicated that it might have been from North Korea.
Giles, you
And-
know way too much about this.
Well,
I think
only,
you were
only
involved.
because I did chair the Cybersecurity Awards quite recently. I can't tell you where or when.
Is that security or Alzheimer's?
You know what the virus was called? It was called WannaCry. It demands money before you can get your computer files back.
Oh, it was all in Bitcoins as well.
Bitcoins?
Bitcoins.
No, we've left the European market. No, Bitcoins.
There's been a sort of failure of the government here, hasn't there? Or?
They were warned, I mean, at least 3 years ago, that XP needed updating. But the trouble with the NHS, it spent a lot of money on IT already, about 12 billion, for a system that didn't work. So essentially it doesn't have any money left, so they didn't pay for the update.
We've not upgraded the security properly, and we've been running the NHS on Windows XP, so people have probably been told that they're dying by a helpful paperclip.
I like the idea that as a hacker, you would target for a ransom the NHS.
Yeah.
One of the few world organisations you know doesn't have any money.
Probably given Jeremy Hunt some ideas about how to get money out of it. What must it be like being Jeremy Hunt at the moment? Imagine he goes into hospital. He'll be the first person to have a sprained wrist treated anally. Sorry, Mr. Hunt, this is going to involve a bit of a run-up. Luckily, our computers are down, so there's no record of what's about to happen to you.
This bit of malware was actually stolen from the American National Security Association, you know, which is a misnomer.
Well, I think President Trump gave it away.
Does anyone know what the Russians have said about it? Exactly that.
Well, they're claiming it's not them, because the Russian Interior Ministry was targeted.
That was a decoy.
You're so clever, Giles.
These are just things I picked up at the cybersecurity conference.
The Russians have said this completely doesn't concern Russia.
And so to round two, the strengthometer of news. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Here's the first one.
It's the London Marathon. There was a row with the Guinness Book of Records about whether this nurse should get a record for doing the shortest time dressed as a nurse. And Guinness said she doesn't look like a nurse, because I think the people at Guinness had perhaps been watching different videos of nurses than the training ones now on offer. And she rightly appealed this, and she now is the quickest nurse in the business. I mean, this is your area, so, I mean, you must know.
Well, yes, it is my area, kind of.
You held
Obviously
your
not running. I did do a walk from Hull to Liverpool for sport relief. Yeah, that was pretty amazing, because that was like 20 miles a day for a week. And they did tell me that I would burn 6,000 calories a day. Unfortunately, I ate 9,000 a day. This nurse is called Jessica Anderson, and you were right. She was wearing trousers, OK? As you said, she was ineligible, because that's
she was wearing
not
scrubs,
what...
wasn't
Scrubs,
she?
that's right, yeah. According to Guinness, the guidelines said a proper nurse's uniform should include a pinafore and a cap. When did they write those rules? 1850s? Actually, the Daily Mail helpfully provided us with a photo of a marathon-running nurse that falls within Guinness guidelines. Here we are. What actually made them change their mind about her world record?
Well, didn't she appeal?
She did. She pointed out the inherent sexism, and they released a statement saying, our guidelines were outdated, incorrect, and reflected a stereotype we do not in any way wish to perpetuate, even though they just did. Fingers on buzzers, teams. Am I meant to be doing this again? I've kind of...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've still got a bit more of this, haven't we? Thanks, Paul.
No, we like seeing it.
Oh, what? Do you?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was completely out of sync.
Yeah, that was
No, wait.
terrible. Hang on.
No.
That was quite bad.
That
Should we
was
do it
quite
again?
bad. You'd have to do it all again.
This is a shambles.
Hang
We might
on.
as well be
What's going on,
politicians.
Steve? We can't replace her now. What are you talking about? Too late. Put the hammer down.
My husband often says that to me. OK. Fingers on buzzers, teams.
This is a story about someone who stole a piece of Stonehenge. And you'd have thought they would have noticed. I mean, look, there he is. Wasn't very subtle about it. He kept it and he took it to America and he's finally returned it because after all these decades, he's got bored of a bit of stone.
His name's Robert Phillips. He stole it in the 1950s when a restoration team drilled metal supports into some of the stones to keep them in position. He's just turned 90. Kept it as a memento. Why is he returning it after 60 years?
Was he sick of cars slowing down in front of his house to have a look?
He was worried about what would happen to it after his death. The sarsen stone... Don't ask me what a sarsen stone is, it just says it's a type
one of the stones. They're different types. The standing ones and sarsen ones.
The top ones.
What a dork.
You're not denying it.
That's a completely different type of stone, which is around the perimeter.
Do you like Stonehenge?
I love Stonehenge. I used to go there when you could go up there and help in the building.
OK, so there's a couple who died it out, like it's Jamie Oliver, who we've just mentioned. Yes, he's...
restaurants are all shutting.
All restaurants are all shutting down. Jamie Oliver's restaurants have closed. They've gone into receivership, I believe.
That's it. Jamie Oliver blamed the company's collapse on the well-publicised struggles of the casual dining sector and decline of the UK high street, along with soaring business rates. How do you think the Sunday Times food critic, Marina O'Loughlin, described Jamie's tagliatelle?
Presumably not in complimentary terms.
Load of bullshit.
Almost exactly so. She described the tagliatelle with truffles at the Jamie's in Westfield, Stratford, as a honking, salty swamp of a sauce, brown and dusty with nutmeg. Tiny chunks, not shavings, of tasteless black truffle lurk around like mouse poos in soup.
Brown and dusty with nutmeg is my Tinder bio.
What did Peter Shilton have to say on the matter?
I mean, I don't know how we ever cave unless we know what Peter Shilton one time goalkeeper's got to say.
Peter Shilton posted a sympathetic tweet. Sorry to hear Jamie Oliver restaurants have gone into liquidation. I went with my wife and grandkids to one and I had a steak with a sauce I specially requested, which was great. So that's nice. Jamie will appreciate that, Peter. That's lovely. But he added, but the kids had pasta, which they loved, but couldn't eat as it was so bad. What recent trend may have affected the business, according to the food writer William Sitwell?
More people getting food delivered?
He said, the cost of dining has persuaded more people to cook at home and flirt with meal kits.
What's a meal kit?
It's what posh people who think that they've got no time get a load of stuff delivered to their door with, like, the right amount of spices in and then, like, pretend that they're really good at cooking because they just put things in together that had arrived on their door. It's a massive waste and a total nonsense.
Well, that is new. I thought a meal kit was a tin and a tin opener.
Do you still get truffles in tins? When did you last open a tin, for God's sake? Ordinary remark to make on public television.
What did one member of staff accidentally serve to diners in Manchester this week?
Expensive, very expensive bottle of wine.
How expensive?
Like, I don't know, like £3,000 or something like that?
Even £4,500?
Yes.
Diners at the Hawksmoor restaurant, they'd ordered a bottle of red wine. It was quite expensive. They were given that. According to the Times, the error wasn't spotted until it had already been partially drunk. I bet they necked the rest pretty quickly. Yeah. The owner of the restaurant tweeted, to the member of staff who accidentally gave it away, chin up. One-off mistakes happen and we love you anyway. Adding, goodbye. When people online questioned who would pay £4,500 for a bottle of wine, the steakhouse replied, in this case, quite literally no one. Who dropped in to help Sainsbury's celebrate their 150th anniversary?
Queen.
It was the Queen. Should we have a look?
Yeah. Queen went and did, like, a self-service checkout.
She wasn't in the 6 items or less thing. So, do anything nice for the weekend?
Let's see the Queen in the supermarket.
I love the fact that was her first reaction. Yeah. She saw through the system.
To be fair, that's how she got the Koh-i-Noor, by putting it through as a courgette.
This is the demise of Jamie's Italian. Trying to explain the collapse of the restaurant chain, the manager of one Jamie's Italian said, "Things are fairly hard." I think he means al dente. One person affected by the collapse of Jamie's Italian was former England goalkeeper Peter Shilton, who tweeted that he'd enjoyed a steak there, but his grandchildren had pasta, which they loved but couldn't eat as it was so bad. Mind you, Peter Shilton's never liked tagliatelle, linguine or ravioli, as they all scored against him at Italia 90.
The Telegraph, thousands of people lining the streets have given the relay a carnival feel. For example, someone dressed as a cod and another as a chip in Falmouth. You Brits really know how to put on a show.
You wait till you see our opening ceremony.
There'll be hundreds of chips.
6 or 7 cod.
Morris in a giant cod costume.
This is the Olympic torch, which is boldly going where no Olympic torch has gone before. Namely, yes, I agree with you. Namely, Turo and Il Fracum.
Sounds deeply sexual. Kind of like a cigar advert.
Have you been to Il Fracum?
I have.
The place is laced with prostitution.
That's their new slogan now.
That's right. Come and get laid in Il Fracum.
According to the Daily Telegraph, under a no-deal Brexit, British holidaymakers would be banned from taking Cornish pasties with them to the EU. Holidaymakers will be forced to smuggle the food past customs officials.
You might not want to eat it after you've smuggled it past customs officials.
Well, this is the question. If you were forced to smuggle a Cornish pasty through customs, how would you do it?
I know.
Go on in.
Under both breasts, I can get 2 Cornish pasties, 2 bottles of iron brew and a sausage dug.
Any answers on your side?
We
Can't compete with that.
We haven't worked out why you'd want to take a Cornish pasty to Europe.
You might enjoy a Cornish pasty. It might always be a family tradition to have a Cornish pasty on holiday.
Oh, in Brittany?
Yeah.
And I can keep them warm all the way.
Well, that is the important thing.
Yes. This menopause is not going to waste.
However, Ed Balls was remaining optimistic.
Mr. Balls, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, there's been this story going the rounds on Twitter and all the rest of it that you've been defeated. Have you heard anything about your result yet or not?
David, the ballot boxes haven't even arrived in the count. And they've got to be counted, and then we'll get the results. So I think maybe you should spend less time on Twitter and more time reporting the results when they're actually declared.
Let's just see how
That's
it
the
panned
Shadow
out for
Chancellor.
him.
So good of him to explain the whole process. They get the votes in and then they count them. Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you for your insight, you little expert.
He's an economist. He's good with figures.
Should we see how it panned out for him?
Ed Balls, in the last few minutes, Shadow Chancellor, lost his seat to the Conservatives.
Is that an R?
No. No, I think
this
some
is
people
the Shadow Chancellor.
No, some people were genuinely surprised, I think. There were some people who didn't know.
I'm sorry. I thought it was a wave of empathy.
Is David Dimbleby going to call him and go, have they been counted now, Ed?
Who might be particularly delighted with the timing of the election announcement?
Paula Venables from the post office, because she was up in the inquiry and it blasted her off the front pages and she would have got an absolute shellacking.
That's right, former post office head honcho and national sweetheart, Paula Venables.
She cried 4 times for herself. It was a really disgraceful performance. And I think, yeah, it was appalling. She said things like, I didn't know that they were prosecuting these people when I took over. And you think, That just isn't true. It's all lies. I mean, she is now in the inquiry trying to blame her colleagues, which is the entire point of the inquiry, is that she's already blamed people who didn't do it in an attempt to cover herself, and now she's doing it again.
I also just don't understand how you can come and take over an organisation where suddenly, out of nowhere, after a new computer system comes in, 1 in 12 people that work from you has got their hands in the till and you never previously noticed, even though they worked for you for 30 years before that.
And you work for the Tory party.
I know! Right?
But if what is happening is that the amount of money that you claim they've stolen is returned to the post office and then you take it out as a bonus, which they did, that's straightforward theft.
I was going to call it corruption.
That's worse than that.
Is it worse than corruption? OK.
Ryan Giggs has spent an awful lot of money to ensure that he's become world famous for stuff other than football.
Yeah.
But people still might be sued for telling people that it was him. So.
Yeah, well, that's right. The MP, John Hemming,
Yeah.
he said that apparently 75,000 people named Ryan Giggs on Twitter. It's not possible to arrest them all. Well, I mean, it's worth a go, though, isn't it? I mean, well, the thing is, the injunction is still in place.
That's right.
That's the thing.
Absolutely.
Despite the people keep going blabbing it out, there's a legal expert, Joshua Rosenberg.
Yeah.
This is what he had to say about it, right?
Well, the law is clear. There is still a court order in force which says that we can't name Ryan Giggs as the person who brought these proceedings.
I'm pleased we can say his name, though, because I was getting so fed up. Every newspaper, every day, it was like, Imogen Thomas has been having sexual liaisons with a man who cannot be named. It's like, what, Voldemort?
Yeah.
I sort of see why he did it as well, Ryan Giggs, because you get the super injunction. He knows that if his identity was known, then people would know not only who he was, but also that his marriage was on the rocks. And at that point, John Terry would be round his house like a sex-crazed whippet.
Yes, the worst-kept secret in Britain is finally out. Lawyers are a complete waste of money. As the row unfolded, thousands of Twitter users named Ryan Giggs in what the Daily Mail called one of the biggest acts of civil disobedience in modern times. Top that, Syria, lightweights.
Someone was tweeting, it was a thing like kind of vintage nostalgia, and it was saying, do you know the name of my first pet was Rosie? I wonder what the name of your first pet was, everyone. And then people started joining in and giving the name of their first pet, which, of course, is a security question for your bank. You know, it's literally, it's like saying, I'll tell you what my PIN number is, 1471. Anyone got one higher than that? I wonder what it is.
Yeah. 1471.
The thing I find astonishing, though, is that with all this data theft about, my Wikipedia entry's still full of lies.
Mine once said I was Oprah Winfrey's nephew.
My entry says that I'm a collector of antique cutlery. And some very nice old lady sent a load of spoons to my office the other day. And I said, why she sent me a load of spoons? And then it turned out it was because she'd read my entry on Wiki and found this stuff in her attic and just sent it to me. So actually, I collect Porsches.
Ian and Nancy, how they look at this?
That's a Tory MP. You can tell they're all like that. That's a Labour MP.
Yeah.
That's Tom Watson. Murdoch's been arrested. He's in the slammer. Bye-bye. And they can't bear to look.
Because
it's so
they can't bear to
sad.
look. Yes, they are very sad.
So that's it. Big news. Murdoch's inside. And he's...
Not strictly true.
No, it isn't, is it? I was suddenly in the world of fantasy. There's been a select committee, and they delivered their report. And they said that Murdoch was willfully blind. And they said his son was willfully ignorant about the phone hacking and what was going on in News International. So it was a really bad day for the Murdochs.
Yeah, I think there are some important questions to be answered by all of Rupert Murdoch's employees.
I think there are.
Yeah, so here we go. What do you think about it, Jeremy? Well, I think as a Sun journalist, it's just a lot of stuff and nonsense and a storm in a teacup. So there we are, moving on. Paul?
I thought you were talking to me there when you said, what do you think, Jeremy? I thought you just forgot my name.
You're not the only Sun journalist. Nancy writes for the Sun.
On the Sunday, a column about fashion. Now, I can't believe myself when I accept it.
You shocked yourself, did you?
Actually, I shocked myself many times. So, yes, every day, even a shock was when I walked in the mirror in the morning. I can surprise I'm getting beautiful and beautiful every day. So,
Do we have any English guests on this?
Now, don't start. Do you need an interpreter?
Yeah.
OK, I'll translate. Nancy was really ashamed of herself for taking money from Murdoch.
Yeah.
Is that not it? You know, there's a shortage of court interpreters in this country. I think I might apply.
Why do you think you speak the perfect English?
Do I think I speak perfect English? These things are relative. But I don't speak 5 languages, unlike you, so,
Thank you.
I'm just trying to be helpful.
Stop flirting! You did actually once say, didn't you, that any man who doesn't flirt with you must be gay?
Yes, I said.
Ian, you passed.
And he said he didn't say it, and then the policeman came out and said he won't answer the question. But he had a tape going in which he said, I admit I swore, and I'm sorry about that.
He was wearing a wire. And the feds didn't realise. He turned the tables against them. Well, how long did the original incident actually last, the actual incident?
45 seconds.
45 seconds. And so far it's cost...
£250,000
Yes, it has. Yes.
to investigate.
Can we get the Chinese pay for that?
160 million people in China watched it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But they must really not have liked him. There must have been a build-up of animosity towards him.
Yeah, do you think he'd ridden up to the gates most days and said, open it?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Clapping his hands. Open, come on! Bike here, eco!
You know, it's a terrible dilemma. Do you believe a Tory member of the cabinet or a policeman? You know, public's got a real problem there.
Police whistleblower has actually come forward. You mentioned that.
They're all
about talking about a result.
They're all whistleblowers. They all blow whistles.
I don't think they do anymore.
OK, logically it doesn't work.
Mobile phone. When this show began, you could have done that joke. I don't mean today. I mean 20 years ago.
I felt tense because you went very quiet. And I thought, oh God, I've cut across a friend of Tom Cruise's.
Well, a whistleblower has come forward with the result of a plot to get Mitchell. And he says that Mitchell had a row at the gates the previous evening as well, after which one of the officers had said, right, we can stitch him up. I love the idea that they actually said it like you would in the Beano.
If, as a result of his presidency, the world does indeed end, won't it be marvellous to think it happened in our time?
He might change what the word presidential means. Like, in a few years, you'll be going, oh, my uncle fell over and banged his head on a curb. He's been rendered completely presidential.
He dismissed the head of the FBI this week.
Comey, James Comey?
Mr. Comey was dismissed.
Comey over.
Because he was...
investigating his connections with Russia.
And now there's an inquiry. Who's been put in charge of the inquiry?
They've got a special prosecutor.
A former
Yeah,
head of the
former
FBI.
And when you open up that special prosecutor, there'll be another little special prosecutor, and open up, there'll be another one. And eventually a little bloke saying, did you do it?
He's Robert Mueller, who was the former FBI director. James Comey's done something to get his revenge on Trump. Any idea
He has
what it is?
produced his memo.
Oh,
he
yes,
kept
he
a memorandum.
didn't he?
Yes. After Trump tweeted that he had kept, or suggested he might have kept a recording of the dinner that took place in February, Comey then came back to say, well, I kept a memorandum.
And he said, will you drop the Russian stuff? So basically, he accused him of literally trying to interfere in the process of justice. And the Americans don't like that very much. So it is all going wrong.
Yeah.
And then the best bit was Putin, who was like, oh, if you want the transcript, we've got one.
How did Trump's administration respond to Comey's leak?
With confusion.
With incredible confusion. According to online news website Daily Beasts, one official said, I felt like running down the hallway with a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, no, it was extraordinary. I mean, I thought it'd be terribly boring, like most conference speeches, but it was just fabulous. And I know a lot of people who are probably nicer than me felt very sorry for her. But I thought it was very, very funny.
It's a bad sign when a cough suite goes down better than you do.
She coughed so much, it felt like she was going to start coughing insects, like an actual horror film.
But it's that moment when you're talking to someone who doesn't really believe what they're saying, and they're saying, yes, I'm really the person for the job. And everything's going very...
Coughing does not do well for female politicians. Her and Hillary Clinton, their colds have destroyed them.
Well, Ian Duncan Smith used to cough a lot. Do you remember? He was another successful Tory leader.
He never had it that bad, though.
No, you don't think so?
No, it's a sort of much lower level cough-based problem. Theresa May took it to... I mean, she weaponised. That was quite incredible. I can't believe you didn't feel any sympathy for her at all. Not even a scintilla.
Oh, dear.
I did.
I think I'm coming across as a bad
It
person.
was awful. I only felt sorry for her because of Boris. I feel that that was such a bad day that it was almost a win for Boris, and I feel that's the only... So I feel like I hate him so much that you want her to have a better gig, you know. Why did she sack Boris?
She can't, can she, sack Boris?
Why?
Because if she sacks him, he gets to walk away from Brexit while simultaneously being able to claim that if he'd stayed in the government, it all would have gone much better than it's clearly going to go.
You know, she can't allow him the pleasure. It's like, you know, he's essentially an arsonist who wants to come back dressed as a fireman.
Yes. Yes.
Where's the fire? There was one of her... I mean, she's been accused of being robotic, so one of the Conservative backbenchers today was making the rounds in a TV studio saying she's made of very strong metal, which I thought was...
Well, people say that at a certain point, the Prime Minister runs out of luck. It just happens to you when everything's going wrong.
Yeah. It's like the end. It's like the complete end. She's not so much as occupying the office of Prime Minister as haunting it.
I mean, again, it's difficult to make up, but the first letter is F, so it's an F off.
An F off. But 15% of respondents to a YouGov poll said that the speech had gone well. 15, there's no way that could just be the cabinet. 15% of people. 15% of people watched that and thought, yes, that's gone rather well. Which makes you wonder what it would take to lower that number from 15%. She could have stood there and melted like the witch at the end of The Wizard of Oz. 12% think it went rather well. She's a puddle on the floor. 10% still think it's gone rather well. It's 15%.
Are you sure that isn't just members of the Labour Party?
Start with the bigger election stories of the week. Ian and Romesh, take a look at this.
Trying to get out of the country. No, this is the race to get the first result in while people are still awake.
So woman can't count. Just devastated. Ed Miliband looking chilled out.
They're shouting at him.
Oh, so relaxed. You're an immigrant? No.
This is the throne.
The legend.
This way. And it's the winner.
I hate you.
Oh, there's balance. These are all people who've gone. Liberals, Hughes, poor old Danny Alexander.
Have I won?
No. No, he stayed in as punishment. And then it's goodbye. It was quite exciting because everyone said it was unpredictable, meaning they got it wrong. So we had this exit poll when we came out, which more or less told you what the result would be, which is a Tory win, except they'd understated the win. And then everyone spent the rest of the evening going, well, if this poll's right... Oh, God, it is right.
I'm just going to step to see if the exit poll's right. I know. I've stayed up for no reason. Okay.
They had Paddy Ashdown on at the beginning of the evening saying, if that exit poll's right, I'm going to eat my hat. Typical Lib Dem. The end of the evening, they gave him a hat. Did he keep his promise?
You're absolutely right, Ian.
It was the election.
Yeah, it was.
It was the election. This is the most powerful number, 7. Is that right? They did a survey. I must have read this somewhere.
They have. They've done a survey, and 7 is the world's favourite number.
Ah, favourite number.
Yes. Alex Bellos asked 44,000 people to submit their favourite number, and 7 proved the most popular. He describes it as the loner, the outsider, the Nigel Farage of the number one. Shall we go through the top 10 world's favourite numbers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What's at number 1? Number 10, sorry.
So, number 10, what do you think?
Number 9's number 10.
No.
Number 8's number 10.
No.
Number 10's number 10.
No.
Number one.
No.
2.
No, all numbers are available.
Oh, 128.
No, at number 10, the 10th most popular number is, in fact, 11. At 9...
It's 10.
No.
40.
No.
21.
No.
100.
At number 9 is the number 2.
2.
The most popular number in 8th position is 6. At 7, the 7th most popular number is 9, and the 6th most popular number is 13. OK, here's the top 5.
This is going to be on Channel 4 for a whole evening. There'll be some talking heads in a minute. What do you think of 6? Yeah, love it.
I've always liked 5 because it's a working class number. That's what I like about 5.
Well, I think that 3, for me, I mean, when I was first growing up, I thought 3 was a magnificent... Oh, sorry. I've started auditioning. Sorry. Where am I?
But let's firstly complete the top 5.
Yeah.
At number 5 is 5.
Yeah,
And
brilliant.
number 4 is 4.
Yes.
And number 3 is 8.
Oh.
At number 2...
1.
Is 3.
3.
The magic number, and of course 7 is the top one at number 1. But the study did ask people to describe the numbers between 1 and 10. 2 was thought to be cautious, wise, fragile and sympathetic. How do you think 3 was described?
Nostalgic, sexy, unreliable.
3 is pretentious.
Oh, God.
4, according to the people who responded to the survey, is laid back and a rogue. Yeah, this is absolute bollocks, isn't it?
Nigel Farage.
What are Nuttall's plans?
To hold the government to a hard Brexit. And
Yes,
if
that's
Mrs
what
May
Nuttall
at
said.
any point goes soft, Nuttall will be there.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
the motto. Don't go soft, Nuttall's watching.
We definitely want a hard Brexit. It's got to be hard to be good. Everybody knows that.
This is pornographic.
Any offers of panto this year?
Of course, there are the shockingly high EU immigration figures that have just come out.
Yeah, record EU immigration figures today.
They're all coming over! Oh, there's probably some in here, Suzanne! Take cover under the desk! Oh, my God! Strange accents and everything.
You see, this is the fundamental misunderstanding about UKIP. We're not anti-immigration at all. We just want to... It's true, it's true.
You see, that's the problem with the message. It hasn't really got across.
No.
Staying with abroad, what's happening in Scotland?
The First Minister's resigned. He's had to resign because he annoyed the Greens and then he didn't realise how annoyed the Greens were. And he said, well, I didn't mean it. And they said, you did. And so he had to leave.
Yeah.
That's the latest political analysis from me.
And it's the leader of a country has had to resign because he's useless. I mean, that's not going to be a good precedent.
It's a terrible trend. It is as complicated as Paul said. The BBC immediately sent Chris Mason up to Edinburgh to explain what's going on. But he seemed more interesting in just sort of popping in and out of the shot like a cheeky little news goblin. Have a look at this.
And that is why its political rivals are seizing this moment. Ah, yes, the general election. This would be a sticky moment at any time, and its consequences will be felt here in Scotland and beyond.
And we wish that producer all the best in his next job. So who is going to take over and shepherd the...
John Sweeney.
Is it Swinney or Sweeney?
Swinney.
Swinney.
Sweeney,
Or is it John Sweeney?
It could be John Swinney.
Are we sure?
Well, they have to find someone in the SNP who hasn't been arrested. So that really reduces the number of candidates.
Yes.
It could be Kate Forbes. She hasn't been arrested.
No, but she's pulled out of the race.
Yes. She pulled out?
Yes, she takes a hardline view on sexuality and is the daughter of missionaries. I think we know what their position is.
So to further endear themselves to the electorate, a number of MPs have been found to have done what?
Oh, they have tried to claim speeding fines on expenses, haven't they?
And parking tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 4 of them, and a government minister.
Presumably these people went for the points and went for the fines because they didn't want to do speed awareness courses, didn't they? Because presumably they were available. And I heard last week's show, and you have been on a speed awareness course, have you not?
Indeed.
As have I, but I was going even slower than you. I was going 22 in a 20.
I was doing 24, Speedy Gonzales.
Interestingly, in the speed awareness course, literally no one recognised me at all.
They said it was humiliating.
Mainly because I was disguised as Suella Braverman.
He's only handing over his WhatsApp messages from 2021, from when he changed phones. So, yes.
Is that right?
So a lot of the messages we're not going to see, and the original phone he had, he was on a boat with Rebecca Vardy.
Yeah. Ruth, it makes me think about WhatsApp messages between politicians. So, are you in a WhatsApp group with Boris Johnson?
I'm not in a WhatsApp group with Boris Johnson, but I do co-chair his Appreciation Society with Nadine Dorries.
So, have you ever WhatsApped Boris?
Yes, but in his old phone. I don't think...
What has the Prime Minister had to say about this COVID inquiry going back and forth?
I feel quite sorry for Rishi, because he's in Moldova with Zelensky and the European leaders trying to do big boy politics. And once again, he's clearing up and being asked about Boris Johnson, and he's not getting to do the Prime Minister thing at all.
And you feel sorry for him?
Well, I do, because he's like this earnest and industrious little chinchilla that works really, really hard.
Yeah.
And then there's just this big looming gorilla behind him that just takes up all of the space and all of the lights, and he just, you know, he can't get on his wheel. It's a shame.
It thought it should have an inquiry into COVID and appointed Baroness Hallett. And she said, well, can I see all the evidence? And they said no.
But it's even more complicated than that, isn't it? Because she said, can I see all the evidence, please? And the government have said no, but Boris has sort of said, yes, I will hand over all my evidence. And he's handed it over to the government, but the government haven't released it. And the reason he has handed all his over is because he kind of wants Rishi to hand over all of his evidence and all his messages, presumably including loads during lockdown, which went, oh, that bastard next door's having a party again.
This is the news that the deadline for submitting requested information to the COVID inquiry has passed, and the whole government and Boris Johnson have been arrested. So sorry, hang on. There's an alternative ending. Nothing's happened.
But also, if you have an inquiry, it tends to be up to the person chairing the inquiry what's relevant. If you say to someone who's committed a crime, is there anything relevant? They go, oh, no. Oh, no, you don't want to see any of that. You don't believe them. So if the government sets up an inquiry, it's presumably got to give over all the stuff. I think by the time this goes out, they'll have backed down. I don't think the government's going to... Are they, Baroness? They're not going to spend the run-up to the next election fighting their own inquiry.
Depending on when this airs, we'll have found out that they've gone to a judicial review.
It'll certainly be sorted out by the time this is on Dave.
I'm not in touch with Vivienne Westwood.
Right.
Though I did get married in Vivienne Westwood, so...
Did you?
You know, yeah.
What, inside her?
Karen Brady, off of The Apprentice, was at the Tory party conference. What was she wearing? I mean, what was she there for?
Oh, yes. Well, I can tell you what she was wearing.
Okay, you can say
it was
what
one
you...
of those body illusion dresses that makes you look half the size you are.
Yes, a
Is that
bodycon
That's
dress.
the one. Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
Heard of that.
Well,
good. Really good, yeah. Try one next time.
I will, yeah.
Not that I'm saying you need to.
No, not saying I want to.
We can have a look at Karen Brady's bodycon dress. If you believed the bodycon there, you'd just call an ambulance, wouldn't you? Yes. Brady was there to introduce George Osborne. Do you know how she did that?
George Osborne.
Bill Clinton did Tony Blair once.
Really?
I mean, introduced him.
Get your wife to do it now. That's the other thing at the conference.
Say,
I think
you're the hero.
after Justine's performance in the Ed Miliband show, no wife is going to do it again, are they? Did anyone
She
see
was
that?
told to kiss him.
Oh, yeah, and she has to do it.
Well,
not even prostitutes have to kiss. And there was also a spectre at the feast at the Tory conference. Do you know who that was?
Oh, Nigel Farage.
Yes, and I suppose the ghost of Margaret Thatcher was probably
because she was
there.
invoked, wasn't she?
Was she?
The mummy.
They did a séance.
Anyway, he turned up, didn't he?
Yes, he turned up in Manchester to address a lunatic fringe... Sorry, Freudian slip. A fringe meeting. Here he is arriving.
Do you expect a warm welcome at the Tory conference?
No.
That's the spirit.
Did you watch the debate last night?
Yes, I did. It was great. It was fascinating. No. You caught me out mid-lie, mid-space. No, I didn't see it. No. Was it good?
So am I the only one who could bear to watch?
Yes.
Well, it was great.
What was your favourite bit, Ian?
The bit at the beginning when you realised Cameron hadn't turned up. That was very good. And then Clegg hadn't come either.
Yeah.
So it meant that everyone attacked Ed Miliband. He'd managed to get a platform where all the other people could say, you're useless. And he couldn't say it's the Tories' fault because they weren't there. So it was a slightly unbalanced debate.
But what do you think about David Dimbleby's frank confession at the end? I mean, did you guess?
Ill-advised.
Ill-advised, yeah. I agree,
Even though we didn't see all of the debate, let's have a look at the highlights.
There just seems to be a total lack of comprehension on this panel, and indeed amongst this audience, which is a remarkable audience, even by the left-wing standards of the BBC. I mean, this lot's pretty left-wing.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
When you talk
Nigel,
about
let me
housing,
just say one thing.
Yeah.
This is an audience that has been carefully chosen, not
Very
by the
carefully.
BBC, not by the BBC, but by an independent polling organisation to represent the balance between all parties.
Never a great...
Very good.
Very
good. Very good.
It's a very good tactic. Attack your audience.
Was it a wise move to pick a fight with David Dimbleby?
And the BBC audience. He's been a bit rattled, isn't he? 12 months ago, he was seen as this sort of man that was going to remake English politics and all this sort of stuff, and now he's just some bloke moaning that everybody's against him.
Who would you rather have a fight with, John? David Dimbleby or Jeremy Paxman?
Glass jaw, Dimbleby.
No, I think that...
He goes straight down. Paxman, he'd be like a bulldog. You'd have to shoot him in the end. He'd keep coming. And another thing, Prime Minister.
We whiff-waff goodbye to Boris Johnson and look back at his life and career as a father, husband, journalist, Mayor of London, husband, Foreign Secretary, father, Prime Minister, father, husband and father. What will you all miss most of all about Boris, the Prime Minister? Ian?
I suppose I'll really miss being able to say this will end badly. Because it did.
Yeah.
And I suppose I'll miss his use of language. Tonight, I'm wearing a tie with balloons on it, but it's not a party. This is a work event for me.
Janet?
You say, what are we going to miss about him? But how do we know he's not going to be back?
I think you know something we might not know, Janet. Maybe we'll find out
I just
later.
look at the opinion polls,
Yeah.
and 43% of the Tory members at the moment would rather have Boris back than either of the other two.
Yeah, but that's because Matron's just gone round with coffee. Trying to wake him up a bit. Who do you want to be Prime Minister, dear? It's nice, Mr. Disraeli.
This show, by the way, has been billed by the BBC as a tribute.
Tribute? Funny way to spell good riddance.
He's been charged with lying, hasn't he?
Yes.
With falsifying, with the big bus with the figure outside that was something like 300 20 billion pounds a week goes through Europe or something like that. So
we'll have to be careful, or they'll cut this out, and I don't want anyone to spoil the fun of thinking Boris is going to go to jail for life. Which, at the moment, we're just at the preliminary hearing stage.
Oh, right, OK.
About whether, when he was a public official, he was telling lies and therefore abusing his office. It should be an interesting trial. I mean, very similar to putting the Pope on trial and saying, are you a Catholic? He was sacked from then sacked from sacked by his own reprimanded.
Ian,
yes,
we're not allowed to say anything that might prejudice the case.
Well, that's absolutely fair enough, because I would like him to have a fair trial with a desirable result of him being imprisoned forever.
Without wishing to prejudice the outcome of the case?
No, because we mustn't do that. I'm not saying he's guilty.
Would you like to see Boris Johnson?
Let's deal with your arguments. One of them is on the side of this bus. We send 350 million to Europe. We don't, and you know we don't. No, we don't. You know we don't. Admit that that figure is grotesquely misleading at best.
I won't.
The true figure is 161 million, correct?
No, the true figure is 350 million.
In net terms, the real figure is 161.
If you take out the abatement and the money that comes back, the UK money that comes back via Brussels, the figure is obviously lower.
Matt Lucas is so good.
What lie did Boris Johnson tell Robert Peston?
Was this the 350 million again?
Linked.
On the NHS?
Linked.
Yeah.
Did he say it would be reconsidered?
Yeah. He said it was in the manifesto.
Yeah.
Did she say it at the manifesto launch?
No. Not only did he lie, but he actually cheated as well, because he looked at Peston's notes in the hope of finding out what the question was going to be, and he was caught.
I didn't know what cheating you were referring to there.
You've suddenly adopted the character of a northern housewife. Oh! Have you heard about... Well, no surprise to me. He was rinsing out his own gloves last Saturday.
We haven't talked about Labour very much, so to head off any accusations of bias...
Are you leaving now to be replaced? The next round will be hosted by Michael Portillo. Come on, we can have a train round.
When it comes to Labour's manifesto promises, how did Shadow Foreign Secretary Emily Thornberry muddy the waters?
Was this Trident?
Yep.
She said there'd be a review, and the review might include scrapping it. Was that the problem?
And do you know who contradicted her and said it was Labour's policy to keep Trident?
Shadow Defence?
The Shadow Defence Secretary, that's right. This was Nia Griffiths, the Shadow Defence Secretary. Emily is not the Shadow Defence Secretary, I am.
You're doing it again! I don't know who that man was. She was in the pub on Saturday, but it wasn't her husband, I'll tell you that much. I know full well he's got a job in Peterborough.
Let's get on with the show, and we start with the biggest stories of the week. Ian and Henning take a look at this.
That's Matt Hancock literally in hot water, trying to wash his hands of it. That's an emergency flight from Turkey, possibly bringing equipment to there. They're just testing.
Yeah, there is the doc from earlier. This is the growing criticism of the government's handling of the coronavirus crisis. It looks like the Prime Minister Boris Johnson's still convalescing, unable to attend important meetings. So no change there then, Ian.
No, I mean, that was the shock news at the weekend, that he'd missed 5 of these important Cobra meetings and had been too concerned with, Brexit and reshuffling the cabinet and his impending marriage. I mean, he did have a lot on in February, and so there wasn't really time to organise the country in the face of this pandemic. So, yeah, that hasn't gone so well.
No, I think no one can complain because, I mean, he didn't get voted in because of his diligence. So no one can be that surprised. I mean, you can say, the Premiership so far has been unmitigated disaster. What did people expect?
So you're blaming the public, Henning. That always makes you popular.
Although there was one crucial decision he was involved in back in March, which was to keep Britain out of talks with the EU to bulk buy protective gear at the beginning of the crisis. That's according to the most senior Foreign Office civil servant, Sir Simon MacDonald, who told us Commons Select Committee this was not a communication error, it was a political decision. although later he admitted that he'd made the claim inadvertently and wrongly. So a communication error of his very own. What is going on, Emma? What's happening?
Well, it's quite an odd thing that after something goes out like that, you can make the claim inadvertently. Were you actually wrong? I don't know. It now just looks quite odd that he said with full confidence to a select committee one thing, and then afterwards it wasn't the case. But the thing that they've been very lucky about with that particular situation is no one who signed up to it on time has yet to receive a containment. So what they can now say is, well, look, it didn't make any difference anyway.
Do you not think that everybody's been just looking at old episodes of Yes Minister, in which in the first 5 minutes the civil servant says something that's clearly true, and then the minister tells him that it isn't true after all, and then he remembers that it isn't true at all? And I love the idea that it's, was this a political decision? We could ask him now. Was the fact that you said the opposite straight afterwards, was that a political decision? Michael Gove's performance was fantastic because he's essentially being asked, is the Prime Minister trustworthy? And Gove has spent the last couple of years telling us he isn't. That's why he ran against him. So he had to sit there and say, I can't imagine why any of this would be believed. Well, we can.
Health Secretary Matt Hancock has also been criticised for failing to provide essential equipment for NHS staff. He responded by saying, I would love to be able to wave a magic wand and have PPE fall from the sky in large quantities. Well, if they haven't locked the doors properly on that flight from Turkey, you may be in luck.
There was a thought, though, that ministers in a report this week in the Telegraph were hanging Matt Hancock out to dry, obviously unnamed ministers.
Yes, there was a big promise about testing, and we were going to have 100,000 tests a day, but so far we haven't done that. We've been something like 18,000, is that right, Emma?
But in the first PMQs, Dominic Raab committed to meeting that target. So, you know, it's only a few days' time, we'll find out.
Thoughts inevitably are now turning towards unlocking the lockdown. The Mail reported that the government are considering a traffic light system. Any idea how that might work, Paul?
Yes, red followed by yellow followed by green. And then repeat the process.
Yeah, and the idea is you sort of gradually ease the country back into go mode. So in the red phase, basically, shops will be allowed to open at first, and hairdressers, thank God, Ian, eh? Then... in the next amber phase, the schools might open. They're talking about May the 25th as a provisional opening date for those. And then finally, the green phase is when the pubs will open. Here it is, as the Sun's report. Pubs shut till Christmas. Oh, don't worry if you were worried about keeping up with the death toll. They've got that covered as well.
What is the fastest growing language in the UK?
Emoji.
It is emoji.
In which I happen to be fluent.
Oh, laughing face, crying face, poo?
Would you like to explain what it is, Ian?
It's not language, is it? It's people putting little drawings on texts.
People using symbols to create communication. Yeah, it's not a language.
Shall we have a look at some popular emojis?
Yes. Popular emojis.
Here's one.
Oh. That's crying face.
Yeah, crying with laughter.
Crying
that
with
one
laughter,
is.
yeah.
What about this one?
Oh, is he winking?
He is winking.
Oh, wink.
My own particular favourite, ghost with black eye. Carrie, do you seem fluent?
I am fluent, definitely. In
What is ghost with black eye?
It's just like, woo.
But there's no accentuation on it. I can't tell whether it's woo, woo, or woo.
Well, when the emojis take over and you're filling out your CV...
Are they raced now?
Yes.
Oh, my God, the emojis are coming. Don't tell UKIP.
When the future...
You're not alone here, Kai. I am on board with emojis.
Thanks.
If you write all day, the last thing you want to do in the evening is superfluous writing.
You could go out or talk.
If you text me, Ian, saying, do you want to go out? I'd say, woo. And then you wouldn't know what it meant, so it wouldn't happen.
No, it wouldn't happen anyway.
Oh, snubbed by Ian Hislop.
No, not snubbed. I don't know what a text is.
Maybe you should ask someone else on the panel, wink face. Sorry, I'm not really... I don't actually use emojis myself, unless, of course, it's an absolute emergency. Oh, come on.
Goldman Sachs, they've been caught out, and the Americans are charging them with fraud. Goldman Sachs invented a bond to sell to people, which was based on subprime mortgages. So it was a pretty hopeless thing to sell to people. But they designed it to lose money, because one of their other clients was a big hedge fund manager who were betting on the bond to lose. So Goldman Sachs were selling this bond to you, saying this is terrific, behind the back going to one of their clients, bet on this is complete rubbish. So Goldman Sachs basically proved that the entire financial collapse wasn't just an act of God or an accident, it was a fraud.
Can I just interrupt at this point?
Yeah.
Because I should make it plain, the law being as it is.
Yes.
Goldman calls the charges completely unfounded in law and fact.
What does Sachs say?
Yes. He completely
Well, what
agrees
can you
with
do?
him.
You get caught, you get caught.
Frankly, I can't see any of this making it into the finished programme.
Are you worried about libel?
Yes. Unlike you, I haven't ever been done for it before.
I think there's very little chance of you getting any more than 2 years.
Yeah. And anyway, Jeremy, backstage he was saying what a bunch of crooks Goldman Sachs.
You could present your programme from your cell. The mission could be to walk from one end to the other in the shortest possible time.
Anyone tell me what this story from the week's news is in emoji?
There was a couple of guys who wanted to celebrate getting married together, and they wanted a cake, and this was in on Northern Ireland, I believe, and the catering firm were very angry. They said you couldn't do this, but there's a court case, and they have to do it because they have to be open to anybody that wants a cake sort of made, so they can't sort of say you can't have your cake.
That's correct. Let's have a look at a picture of the cake. Beautiful.
This judgment is probably going to be reviewed. It is the equivalent of going into a Muslim-owned cake shop and saying, I'd like you to have a face of the Prophet on the cake. You're open for business, make me the cake. Otherwise, it's against the law. So this is creating quite a difficult area. It's freedom of expression versus freedom of religion, which, again, is difficult to explain in emojis.
So why Bert and Ernie?
Well, I hate to tell you, Frank. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but they're together.
Yeah, it's that kind of talk that ruins people's careers. Do you know that Sesame Street have issued an official statement on this incident? Absolutely true.
Bert and Ernie are not officially gay.
They've said Bert and Ernie are best friends. They are not gay, they are not straight, they are poppets. They added they do not exist below the waist.
What?
Yeah. God, I feel their pain. A judge in Belfast has ruled that a Christian-run bakery was wrong to refuse an order for a cake with the slogan "Support Gay Marriage." The Christian bakery specialises in cakes and so bakes only 5 loaves of bread a day. But thanks to a joint promotion with the fishmonger next door, they still have 5,000 happy customers. After winning the case, cake lover and gay activist Gary Lee said he'd be celebrating tonight with a candle in his brownie.
Staying on the subject of
Yes,
the
let's.
paranormal, who else recently revealed that they had seen a ghost?
The sexy leader.
The boxer Alex Salmond.
Yes, it was Alex Salmond. He told reporters, I have seen a photo, which I know was not forged or created, that will give anyone serious thought about these things.
The man currently on a train to Devon. Hello there. Would you like to see my SN penis?
So, this is the apparition in a Torquay museum that's been dubbed Britain's sexiest ghost. The museum manager claimed the haunted exhibit is Devon's only human mummy. And having seen some of the mums in Plymouth, I think he might be right.
Next, Peter Adams analyses Reginald's what?
It's got to be bonsai, isn't it?
Oak.
Peter Adams
Willow.
analyses Reginald's tree and finds it isn't bonsai, it's just very far away.
No, it was bonsai. It was Peter Adams analyses Reginald's bonsai. Here's Peter Adams in bonsai focus. That's his actual size, obviously. Several celebrities own bonsai trees, such as Ronnie Corbett. He likes a bit of shade.
Does Tom Cruise have a bonsai as well?
Hey, don't slag Tom off, all right?
It was just a normal-sized tree.
Leave him
but you
alone.
made
Leave
it
him
look-
alone. He's suffered enough.
Did you go and see him because you're going to have a remake of Twins, the Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger film?
You should remake all of Arnie's films, actually. It'd be
You have
fantastic.
been well and truly rumbled
The
there.
Terminator.
Yeah.
I'll be back. I'm telling you that. I will be back. I'll bloody be back. I'll tell you that. I'll be back.
Big commando facing all those people. Oh, watch it, lads. Someone's
Yeah.
going to get hurt.
Is there any other impressions you do other than me?
I do Tony Blair, but then I sound like him anyway.
Offend someone in Tony Blair's voice.
You know... That's it, I'm offended.
Next, huge duck army. What?
Huge duck army absolutely massacres tiny duck army.
Faces massive bill.
Huge duck army patrols South African vineyard. This is a vineyard in South Africa that uses an army of 800 ducks to control pests. Next, 18-foot-long cucumber. What?
Does not bother woman with 19-foot corridor.
18-foot-long cucumber available for events. The Cucumber Growers Association.
Oh, that must be the finale for the Daffodil Festival.
Here it is.
Is that real?
It looks a bit like a dirigible.
It's got a handle in the middle of it, look.
Yeah.
Like, it's as if they're going to pick it up there and...
Or break down the doors of a massive salad.
Next, bald men on high alert. What?
As seagulls target pates.
Good enough.
What?
Yes. Bald men on high alert as marauding owl attacks. It is a bird one. This is about an owl terrorising people in Devon. One bald victim of the so-called terror owl was Richard Clevedon Smith, who reluctantly agreed to recreate the incident for the local paper.
I see that in the photograph behind him, the local Beatles tribute band are restaging the cover to Abbey Road.
Finally, parachuting beavers, what in the 1940s?
Was a popular euphemism.
For what?
Invading Crete.
Creek?
Crete.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, you were on a beaver theme.
I thought you were calling sex invading the creek, and I loved that. I loved that.
Well, we can do a retake if you like.
It's a more interesting answer than the rather obvious.
Parachuting beavers killed 15 civilians in the 1940s.
Were they trained by MI5?
Yeah, but you can't direct the parachuting beaver. Once he's out there, he's out there.
Good for all those German dams, though.
Parachuting beavers imitated Churchill. We are parachuting beavers.
Parachuting beavers thrown out of planes in the 1940s. An historian in the US state of Idaho has unearthed a video of the Great Beaver Trip of 1948, a relocation plan for the state's beavers. Here it is.
Now into the air and down they swing, box open, and a most unusual and novel trip ends for Mr. Beaver.
What? How can it be cheaper to drop them from planes rather than just take them in a car and just there you are? I'm not flying EasyJet again, thanks very much. Well, hello, boy.
What happens if the box doesn't open when they hit the ground as well?
They're beavers.
So to round 2, the jigsaw of news. Buzz when you know what it is. Paul and Jess.
That's an emu. And it's on the run in Scotland. It's been seen in Aberdeen, Perth and Dundee. It runs at about 35 miles an hour and nobody can catch it. They can't they've tried to put a saddle on it. The Archbishop of Edinburgh has been lowered down on a helicopter to try and get onto its back. So essentially that's what it is.
Do you know its name?
Louis.
He's one half of a duo of emus named Bonnie and Clyde. And it's Clyde. Where did Clyde escape from?
A zoo in Edinburgh or somebody's house?
It was a petting zoo at a care home in the Scottish village of HIGNFY. Which I think is actually what the zookeeper muttered when he found the emu was gone.
Yeah.
What's HIGNFY renowned for?
Its inability to cage wild birds.
Tarts.
Beg your pardon?
The HIGNFY tart is a sort of open-top mince pie which originates from HIGNFY. Clyde is not the first emu to go on the run in Scotland recently. Would you like to see an emu running along the A82?
Yeah, is it Julian Assange, the emu?
I don't think I would, actually.
Can we have a vote on this?
Yeah, we should have a vote. Who wants to see an emu running down the road? Everybody. Everybody.
All right, quick look at the emu. Where was it going?
We know there's a coyote behind it. Where was it going? Well, I don't know, whichever way that road is. Aberdeen.
Well, it was a trick question because I didn't tell you which way along the A82 it was going. It was going away from Loch Ness towards Glasgow.
Are you auditioning some new quiz format?
This is the surprising news about an emu at a petting zoo in Scotland. The emu was spotted running down the A82 at 25 miles an hour, but was still overtaken by a local man who realised he'd left his change on the table and a little chef in the Trossachs. Fingers on Buzz's teams. Here's another one. Paul and Jess.
This is Amazon and these sort of voice recognition systems that use female voices, and some people have complained that this might be a sexist, stereotypical thing because women, as the stereotype might go, are always telling men what to do, or is it something like that? Is it that the sort of idea behind
it? I mean, the report from UNESCO says that the default female voice normalises the idea that women are subservient, docile helpers that are available at the touch of a button.
I do know, I mean, you know, with the satellite nav most people now have in their cars, when they first came out about 15 years ago, the research showed that most men didn't want to do what a man was telling them.
Mine's Snoop Doggy Dog.
Is it?
My sat nav.
How'd you get him to do that?
He's not got a lot on, really. Yeah.
And he knows the Birmingham area really well.
He really does. I think it's a load of rubbish, people being upset about whether it's a man or a woman's voice, really.
Yeah, I don't think the worst problem of sexism in the modern era is that Siri speaks with a female voice.
No.
It's actually a male voice in this country anyway, but... What voice does your Siri have?
You've got the voice of Gladstone on yours. I'm afraid that hasn't yet been invented, sir.
And what happened this week to show that things haven't changed quite as much as they might have done?
Oh, there was a female producer who didn't take the job that she was offered because she was found that she was getting £12,000 less than a man who was doing exactly the same job.
That's right. Karen Martin, a BBC News producer, was offered the job of deputy editor for the BBC radio newsroom, and a man was also offered it, and she was offered £12,000 less. Even though, as she said in her email explaining why she was turning it down, they were offered the same job on the same day after the same board during the same recruitment process.
Will the BBC never learn? How many times do we have to say, pay us the same as people with balls?
Thank God, Jess, that you and I are both getting 20 grand for this appearance. That's right, isn't it?
You've got other things against you that means they wouldn't pay you as... together, Flower.
I'll leave you with news that on a bridge in Aberdeenshire, Nicola Sturgeon is annoyed at another passerby shouting "Fandabadozi." The owner of one of Britain's best-known stately homes appalls visitors with his lewd behaviour. After pressure from the party, Nigel Farage agrees to take a break over summer to get fit. And after hearing about her son's historic meeting, the Queen also offers her hand to Gerry Adams.
Here's the next one. Fingers back on buzzers. Zoe.
Well, it's a guy who spent a year and a half trying to recreate the flavour of KFC at home. And he's been experimenting with the 11 different herbs and spices and has finally cracked the code to create KFC at home. And he's put it on YouTube and people are so happy because they miss it, because they're missing restaurants. So once a week at home, because we can't go out and eat in restaurants, I try and create a sort of holiday-style taverna at home for me and the missus. I'll play the waiter, she plays the customer. I'll ignore her for about an hour and a half, then I'll bring her something she didn't want, and then I'll overcharge her at the end. And it just really feels like we've had a nice night out.
Yeah, this is Dan Fell from Warwickshire, who's been labelled a modern-day hero by the Daily Mail this week for recreating the KFC fried chicken recipe in his own kitchen. It took him 18 months. Zoe, 11 herbs and spices, do you know what they are?
Creosote.
I know what a lot of them are, right? There's paprika, ginger, pepper, white pepper, salt, I can never say it, oregano.
Oregano? It sounds like half the Wombles are in there.
What food is nurse Claire Stewart? Here she is, now obsessed with, and why?
Oh, goodness. I'm going to say beetroot, only because I've got 5 in my own cupboard.
You got 5 beetroot in your cupboard?
I've got 5 beetroot. I sort of panic bought beetroot.
You panic bought beetroot and I rushed out to the shops and got this. This gives me hours of pleasure, this does.
I bet it does.
She told The Sun that after a life-saving stem cell transplant, despite never tasting the snack before, she was left with an addiction for pickled onion flavour Monster Munch.
Oh, yeah.
We need to self-isolate her.
I'll swap her a beetroot for a bag of pickle flavoured...
Ah, you see, there we are. That's the currency of the future, beetroot. Get what you like with 5 beetroot.
You can.
This is the news that a Warwickshire man has come up with his own recipe for KFC. Now he's got to master the harder trick of convincing people that a tiny pot of 12 baked beans can really be called a portion. Also in the news, it emerged that members of the House of Lords are unhappy with the quality of the food that's been on offer there. The Times revealed that Lord Naseby put 6 official questions about snacks to the chair of the House of Lords Services Committee. That's his mistake. He should be asking the Master of the Rolls. The Sun also revealed that another unpopular choice in the House of Lords is ladyfingers. Don't think I've ever heard ladyfingers speak in the Lords. In other food news, a man was arrested for doing 110 miles per hour on the M1 while travelling from Nottingham to London to buy a loaf of bread because it was £1 cheaper. True. The arresting officer reached for his baton, which the driver then offered to buy off him. Anyone want to see a dog owner trying to trick their pet into eating carrots?
Yes.
From Waitrose and Partners. Christmas chocolate selection, 240 grams, was £10, no £5. 6 months matured Christmas pudding.
And we start with Gary the cat has eyebrows that what?
Distract you from the fact that Gary is a ridiculous name for a cat.
I've got a cat called Colin.
Well, that doesn't mean that it's OK, does it? Are you serious? Colin?
Yeah.
So when he's out, you open the door and go, Colin! People just think you're looking for a bloke. There's no way they think Colin's a cat.
Well, the judge believed me.
Gary the cat has eyebrows that always make him look confused. Here is Confused Kicker.
He's probably thinking, why the hell am I called Gary?
How did Keir himself accidentally lighten the mood?
Sausages instead of hostages.
So good.
Yeah.
I did feel for him because he gave a very long speech and I thought, no one will remember anything about that apart from he said, we're going to bring the sausages home.
I think what happened there is sometimes when I come on the television, my mates will be like, can you get the word unicycle in?
Which you just done.
James, you owe me a tenner, mate.
Unicycle, I'll have a tenner as well.
I think what's happened here is his mate, Labour peer Wahid Ali, has gone, if you say sausages in your next speech, I'll give you 16 grand. And he knew that hostages was coming up and he saw an opportunity. That's what I think has happened.
It's a product placement, effectively. Sounds plausible.
Can I just say that the night Keir did that, I was doing an event with John McCarthy, who actually had been a hostage in Lebanon. Oh. And I thought, oh no, this is really bad taste. I don't know what's going to happen. John McCarthy stood up and said, as a former sausage...
Shall we have a look at the clip?
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages. The hostages.
It's so good. Is this any connection with Liz Truss opening up new pork markets?
That is a disgrace.
Yes.
Now, that really is enough about the government's bad week. Oh, no, sorry. Andy Coulson. Where did he unexpectedly find himself this week?
In the back of a cop car heading to Scotland.
Because?
Because they want to have a word.
I had absolutely no idea that you were a gangster.
Andy Coulson.
He's been arrested for perjury.
Yes.
During a trial where someone else was on trial for perjury.
Yes.
While he was actually working for the Prime Minister, which is pretty shocking. Are you shocked, Alistair?
I'm shocked.
You. I'm glad you're shocked, because, you know, some of the people that this government have been hanging about with... Rebecca Brooks? Know her at all?
I do.
Were you shocked when she
shocked.
was arrested?
I've been shocked by lots of things, Ian.
He's been charged, though, not just arrested.
Yeah.
He's been charged.
He's been charged.
Which is why Ian's being so careful.
Yeah.
About Andy Coulson, if not about me.
Well, they haven't charged you yet.
Is it hot in here?
In case anyone thinks I'm being gratuitous, I know that Alistair is going to be reasonable tonight, because he told Leveson, I am robust, but I'm not a bully. So no matter what anyone says, you're going to be really reasonable.
Tonight? No.
That's good, though, to remember. Like, if your kid gets caught, like, kicking a fat kid, just go, no, he's not a bully, just robust. He's robust.
It probably seemed like a good idea when you said yes.